Welcome everyone to today's Explainer. We are jumping right in today because I am incredibly excited to guide you through this one. We're going to explore one of Istanbul's absolute most captivating, legendary architectural silhouettes, the Mihrimah Sultan Mosque at Edirne. We're going to unpack this totally fascinating intersection of a romantic myth, some seriously precise mathematics, and stunning architectural design. By the end of this explainer, you're going to see exactly how a 16th century architect managed to turn thousands of tons of heavy stone into what feels like a weightless temple of light. So let's get right to it.
Okay, Section 1, the legend of the sun and the moon.
Now, before we can even begin to understand the bricks and mortar of this incredible building, we absolutely have to talk about the person it was built for, Mihrimah Sultan. She wasn't just anybody, right? As the beloved daughter of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent and Hürrem Sultan, she was a massively influential royal patron during the classical Ottoman period. She had the power and the resources to commission something truly extraordinary, and her name itself is where the magic starts. It has these beautiful Persian roots. Mihr translates to the sun, and Ma translates to the moon. Sun and moon. And this isn't just some poetic name. It's the literal foundation of a legendary romance and a massive feat of astronomical planning. It actually dictated exactly where and how this structure was built in relation to another mosque she commissioned all the way across the Bosphorus in Üsküdar.
According to the popular story, the real magic happens specifically on March 21st, the spring equinox. That's the one day when day and night are perfectly equal. If you find the right vantage point on that exact day, you can watch the sun setting directly behind the single minaret of this very mosque in Edirne. And at that exact same moment, the full moon rises perfectly behind the other Mihrimah Sultan Mosque over in Üsküdar. Sun and moon, Mir and Ma. I mean, it is a stroke of absolute poetic genius, translating a person's name directly into a celestial event using sheer architecture.
Which brings us to Section 2, Static Genius, the Temple of Light.
Because behind every poetic silhouette is an architect doing some incredibly complex math. Let's just ground ourselves in the timeline of this classical Ottoman period masterpiece for a second. It was commissioned in 1562, and the heavy lifting, the main construction of the mosque itself, happened incredibly fast. They finished it around 1565. The entire surrounding complex, which included a madrasa, a primary school, a bathhouse, and shops, well, that was all wrapped up by 1570. And the mastermind overseeing the whole shebang, the legendary chief architect of the empire himself, Mimar Sinan.
To really grasp Sinan's absolute genius here, you just have to look at the numbers. We are talking about a single, massive central dome that is 37 meters high and 20 meters in diameter. Just take a second and think about the sheer colossal scale of that. Imagine standing underneath it. When you have a massive dome of solid stone that large, gravity becomes your absolute worst enemy. Every ounce of that weight wants to pull the entire building straight down to the ground.
So the multi-million-dollar question is, how did Sinan solve this gravity problem? Well, he used these brilliant architectural elements called filiaya, which translates delightfully to elephant feet. These are massive, incredibly strong corner pillars. Instead of doing what was normally done, relying on a bunch of bulky side domes or really thick, heavy outer walls to prop up the main dome, Sinan engineered a static hack. He took almost all of that immense downward crushing weight and transferred it directly into just 4 of these colossal elephant feet right at the corners.
And the breathtaking payoff of that engineering choice is so clear today. Because Sinan freed up those outer walls, since they literally weren't needed to hold up the dome anymore, he could basically just hollow them out. He transformed what would have been blank stone into elegant arched panels and filled them with hundreds of windows. The result is the most illuminated, light-overflowing mosque in all of Ottoman architecture. When you walk in, you don't feel that heavy, oppressive weight of stone at all. You just feel this sense of uninterrupted, airy, incredibly luminous space.
Moving right along to Section 3, Architectural Elegance and Details.
Now, once Sinan flooded the room with all that gorgeous natural light, the finest artisans of the era basically had the perfect stage to show off their absolute best work. The interior features here represent the absolute peak of classical Ottoman craftsmanship. Take the Mihrab, for example, the altar indicating the direction of Mecca. It's carved from solid marble and topped with intricate honeycomb-like carvings called muqarnas. Then you have the member, or pulpit, which takes marble work to a whole other level with this incredible geometric openwork. It's stone carved so delicately, it honestly looks like a net. And the Hünkârmâ Fili, the private imperial lodge for the Sultan, is just covered in masterful wood carvings and rich frescoes.
And the details, they just keep getting richer.
Remember those hundreds of windows we talked about? Well, many of them are adorned with really delicate stained glass, known as vitrae. The interior surfaces are brought completely to life with columesci frescoes in these striking tones of red, navy, and gold. And if you look closely at the woodwork, like the main doors and the window shutters, you'll see they are painstakingly inlaid with shimmering mother-of-pearl and rich tortoiseshell. Just imagine how that abundant, overflowing light from Sinan's windows catches the gold, the colored glass, and the mother-of-pearl as the sun moves across the sky. It is totally mesmerizing.
Let's step outside the main prayer hall for a moment, because the exterior is just as thoughtfully designed. Visitors are immediately welcomed by this very unique two-tiered double portico, the Sun Samat Yeri, which rests on these incredibly elegant marble columns, capped with more of those beautiful Muqarnas carvings. And just beyond that is the inner courtyard, anchored by a stunning, multi-sided marble ablution fountain right in the very center. It's this perfect oasis of calm right before you step into the grand, soaring space of the mosque.
Okay, let's look at Section 4, Khoja Sinan and his masters.
You know, it's really easy to look at a building this majestic and kind of feel like it magically appeared out of thin air. But it took a massive, highly skilled team of human beings to bring this specific architectural vision to life. You have Chief Architect Mihrimah Khoja Sinan at the very top, acting as the absolute mastermind for the concept and the static math. But under his direction were all the imperial guilds. You had the architects and carpenters raising the frame, the stone carvers or sengtarshlars laboring over every single geometric cut in the marble, the painters and designers rendering the vibrant frescoes, and of course, the master calligraphers writing out the stunning scripts that adorn the walls. It really was a symphony of specialists working in perfect harmony.
And before we wrap up, we have to acknowledge the ultimate test of all their craftsmanship, time and nature. Istanbul is a highly seismic city, and this mosque has faced devastating historical earthquakes, particularly in 1766, 1894, and as recently as 1999. The structure, especially its tall single minaret, has definitely taken damage over the centuries. But thanks to the incredibly solid static foundation laid down by Sinan and the loving, expert preservation by generations of restoration architects and engineers, this masterpiece still stands proudly today. All of which brings us to a final, lingering thought for today. When you consider the Mihrimah Sultan Mosque, with those heavy elephant feet perfectly bearing the load of a massive dome, juxtaposed right against that romantic legend of the sun and the moon perfectly aligning on the spring equinox, it really makes you wonder, does true architectural perfection require mathematical genius, or just a heart inspired by the cosmos? I'll leave you to ponder that. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this leaves you eager to go out and uncover the hidden stories in the architecture all around you.